Just as a disclaimer, we want you to know that some of the movies that we will be reviewing were shot in a different time and era where people of race and sex were not treated equally. We understand this and hope you do too. The movies or anything that happened on the sets are not the views of this podcast or what this show is intended to be all about.
Exactly. And we want to give due diligence in presenting the movie and not the views of the cast or directors or anyone involved. But we also feel it's necessary to let the audience know some of the background information to get a feel for what was happening at the time of shooting the film. Again, we hope you understand that we do not agree with everything that went on, and we just want to give out the information. And with that being said, hope you enjoy the show.
Ben-Hur, winner of the British Oscar, the New York Film Critics Award, and the Foreign Press Association Golden Globe as Best Picture of the Year. Ben-Hur has been named Best Picture by newspaper and magazine critics in every city in the world in which it has played, including the New York Times, the Boston Daily Record, the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Chicago Daily Tribune, the Los Angeles Examiner, the London Daily Telegraph, and Time Magazine.
Judah, let me explain something to you.
The Emperor is watching us.
This is my great opportunity, Judah, and yours too. The Emperor is watching us, judging us. All I need do is serve him.
You speak as if he were God.
He is God, the only God. He is power, real power on earth. There is only one reality in the world today. Look to the west, Judah. Don't be a fool. Look to Rome.
Rome is an affront to God. Rome is strangling my people and my country, the whole earth. The day Rome falls, there will be a shout of freedom such as the world has never heard before.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Jimbo, and today we will be discussing the great epic movie Ben-Hur. I am joined, as usual, by these two chariot racers.
Kyle Zahner.
And the titular tired Terence, as usual.
Before we get started, we have had an epic day today. This is the first time for the podcast that we actually went and visited somewhere for the podcast to do some research. We actually went to Crawfordsville, Indiana, went to the General Lee Wallace Study and Ben-Hur Museum, basically.
Wonderful place.
Wonderful place.
Had a great time.
Yeah.
At the end of this podcast, we have a special interview with Larry Paarlberg. I hope I didn't mess your name up, Larry. Who was the director of the museum, who actually sat down and did a small interview with us in between some tours he was doing. So we were very grateful for him. So before we dive too much further in here, Terence and Kyle, I did prepare a question.
Ooh, it's been
All
a
right.
while.
Which one do you think you would have fared better at? Doing a chariot race, such as we saw portrayed in this movie Ben-Hur, or as a gladiator competitor in the Colosseum, as we saw in Gladiator?
Oh. The real answer is I die in both. But if I had to, I'd probably choose the chariot race.
I'd probably fare better in the gladiator ring.
I think I might be able to get out alive in a chariot race. Maybe.
Well, I do a lot of driving, so I'm going to say the chariot race too. Because you can always pull that thing over and stop. You can't always just pull over a line.
yeah,
and
yeah.
just sit over there.
I can always crash and roll. You can tuck and roll. You might live.
Yeah.
Gladiator, you definitely die.
All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about Ben-Hur. This is the number 100 movie, top 100 movie on AFI. It is actually number 100. It is on the 1001 movies you must see before you die. This has over 40 scripts. Went through 40 scripts and over 6 years. And it has over 1 million props that were made. So, Terence, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away. And this is going to be different because we got a lot of stuff of information that just came to us today in this adventure we went on. So, Terence, take her away.
All right, we got Ben-Hur. Now, this is the 1959 version. Before this one, there was a 1907 version. That was I believe it was a 10-15 minute Broadway play. And then there was a silent film that came out in 1927. 25, that's right. 1925, that was a silent film. And of the three, we learned that was the more accurate to the book. But this one the one we're covering was sort of
Like
story-wise, just theatrically, Hollywood was the better told story.
Yeah, but the sound film was more faithful.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they had more stuff to work with as far as digitally.
And
all
a
that,
big budget to go with, too.
A very big budget.
So speaking of which, let's go down the list here. So this came out November 18th, 1959. This is surprisingly rated G.
Yeah, there were some pretty gory parts of it.
Was the PG rating even available at that time?
They added it in. So this particular version of the movie has had multiple re-releases. Mm-hmm. And so usually when something has re-releases, they'll eventually rate it. Not everything gets rated, but some things do eventually down the line get rated. But this got rated G. I'm not sure when, but it has been rated.
But we covered when the actual rating system came into place, because there was a movie that we did specifically that installed the G, PG, PG-13.
Yeah.
What was that?
PG-13 was Gremlins, if I remember correctly.
But we haven't covered Gremlins. There was a movie we covered, and that's why they went to the R and all that. What movie?
Yeah,
I can't think of it off the
Did we
tip
do
of
the
my
Indiana
tongue.
Jones movies on this podcast? I can't remember.
We did one of them so far.
Because I wasn't on that episode, so I wouldn't know.
All right, Kyle, you're on Google duty while I keep reading.
Steven Spielberg. I'll do the research through my sacred touch on a phone.
All right, so we got the budget of $15 million.
In 1959,
1959, $15 million, which today, if you account for inflation, that's $141 million. Gross USA, this is what it made, gross USA Canada, and also worldwide, because it only had, at least as far as my research goes, because we've read sort of contradicting information, but as far as the numbers that I can find, this is all I can find number-wise. We got gross USA and Canada, which is also the gross worldwide. That it made $74.4 million. If you count for inflation, that's $699.6 million. its opening weekend, it only made $241,000, which is about $2.2 million if you can count for inflation. So it didn't do good opening weekend, but it picked up speed and then quickly became a well-selling movie. Now, we have the box office for 1959. I don't have the month just because of how old the movie is, but I do have the year box office. So at number 1, we do have Ben-Hur.
So it made a comeback then.
It did. It at the end of that year, actually, it is surprising because it came at the end of the year. So, we get a November 18th release, and then it peaks the box office at the end of the year to top the box office for 1959. Right under it, we have number 2, we have Shaggy Dog. Number 3, Some Like It Hot, which we have covered. Number 4, Operation Petticoat. And number 5, Pillow Talk.
It's another good movie.
Yeah, I have some brief facts here. The MPAA was established in 1969. We started with originally with the G for general audiences, M for mature audiences, and R for restricted. Also, they had the PG for parental guidance, and the PG-13 wasn't established until 1984. And I believe it was with Gremlins, but I can't see it right here. So before that, it would have been Ben-Hur would have been subject to the Hays product code, which I'm going to do a little more research on.
Yeah, the Hays code.
Yeah, the Hays production code.
We have covered Hays codes in the past.
We've done that before. Yeah.
Super early in the podcast, we covered the Hays codes with
Psycho, wasn't it?
Psycho. We covered the Hays codes when we were talking about Psycho, and then I believe it came up a couple more times in some of our later episodes afterwards.
I remember correctly, it's because they showed a toilet, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah. That's exactly.
It was because of the toilet. But yeah, Ben-Hur was of course Ben-Hur was made in 1959, and so it would have been applied retroactively with the G rating.
Yeah,
which I think is actually a little
10 years later.
Maybe unusual because I would think at least a PG would make more sense, but that's just me.
Exactly.
Maybe it'll change in the future. Who knows? But that's the brief history of the MPAA.
Very nice. Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome. This time. Next time I charge a quarter.
This was directed by William Wyler, who also directed The Best Years of Our Lives, Roman Holiday, and The Big Country. Writing credits, also, obviously, at this point, goes to Lew Wallace, who we know now an extensive bit of information about. He also wrote A Tale of Christ, A Prince of India. These are some of the other books that he wrote, along with Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur was The Tale of Christ.
It's Ben-Hur, Tale of Christ.
Oh,
there's also The Fair God.
That's what I was. That's what I was looking for.
You got it.
The screenplay was written by Carl Thunberg, Gore Vidal, Maxwell Anderson, and S.N. Berman, and Christopher Fry. Those are all the writers of the screenplay. Music was by Mikolos Rosa, who also did music for Spellbound, Double Identity, and The Lost Weekend. We have director of photography, Robert Strutries, who also did digital. I am just everywhere today.
We've had a very long day of extensive research, and we are going to give you the best show possible. We're also a little tired.
It's always when I have just a massive amount of information for whatever we're covering that I just crumble.
Exactly. We're building suspense, the longing of the heart. You're going to love this. Don't worry.
He was also director of photography for The Graduate, The Last Picture Show, and The Sting.
Other classics in their own rights.
Exactly. Editors, we have John D. Dunning, Ralph E. Winters, Margaret Booth, who was uncredited for the editing of this movie. And then finally we have the producers, who are... There's only one credited producer, and that's Sam Zimbalist, who is also one of the ones that unfortunately... during the production of this film, after leaving the set, he ended up passing away from a heart attack, and he was 54. The other producers on this, the uncredited ones, we have William Wyler, Joseph Vogel, and Sol C. Siegel. And now the text bags. So this had a couple different releases, each one longer than the next. Its original release, we had 3 hours and 32 minutes. Then the next release was 3 hours and 39 minutes. And then we have 3 hours 44 minutes. 3 hours. The UK release was 3 hours 42 minutes. The DVD was 3 hours 34 minutes. And then the 2005 DVD was 3 hours and 42 minutes.
And I believe those are with including the intermissions and preludes, if I remember
Exactly.
correctly, too.
Then finally, we have Sound Mix, which is 6-track stereo Westerex recording system. So this was made to be in big theaters, and you'll see that when we get to the prints that they made for this movie.
It was one of the original roadshow movies back in the decade where they had those originally. Nowadays we don't have those. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. This movie is in color. Its aspect ratio is a very unique aspect ratio. So we got a 2.66 by 1 aspect ratio. That's Super 8mm. And then the prints for this movie is also interesting. So you have your normal 35mm prints, so 2.55 by 1. But then you have 70mm prints, which is, there's only a handful of 70mm prints. This movie and 40, at least what I can find, there's 44. There's probably a couple more of recent ones that I couldn't dig up. But the most recent one I found, and I know there's a couple after, but as far as my notes and stuff, the most recent movie to use 70mm prints was The Hateful Eight. Then we also have some other notable movies that are like West Side Story, Sound of Music, 2001 Space Odyssey, Tron. Those are some other ones that use that big 70mm print. And that's when you go to the theater and it's that ultra wide curved screen.
Very few theaters in America even still have them available.
So very few theaters have them, and also it's super expensive to make 70mm print
because you're essentially filming with 3 cameras simultaneously with those kind of lenses and actually getting that huge aspect ratio done right.
And the equipment to actually run those 3 films all at once, it's all a hassle, but it looks phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Finally, we have the camera, so Mitchell lenses, and I got a bunch of cool information about the cameras that were used in this and a lot of the other stuff, which I'll be, spouting off as we go down the list of all the information we have. This laboratory was Technicolor SPA Rome, Italy. So this was edited in Rome, Italy, which is pretty unique. Usually we see it done in LA. Hollywood. I think we've seen a couple in New York.
But this film was filmed mostly overseas.
So it was, yeah. So
probably easier to
it was
get
also
to
edited over in Italy. Film length, 6,100 meters. There is a lot of film to go with this movie. And the amount of film they cut from this movie is amazing, and I'll touch on that later also. Cinematographic process, we're looking at MGM camera 65 anamorphic, and finally printed film format 35mm, 8mm, and 70mm prints. And that's it for that. And do
you think this movie would have worked in black and white?
I believe so. But I mean, obviously,
the 1925 version obviously is black and white.
Yeah,
but
it's silent.
I'm saying something this big. Do you think it would have looked nice in black and white?
I'm the kind of crazy person who occasionally just goes full out to actually watch films intentionally in black and white sometimes, even colorized films. And so I think I can say almost certainly that film would have worked great even in black and white.
But the colors were so vibrant, it almost reminded me of Technicolor in a way.
Yeah, very much so.
It's a beautiful movie even from a color perspective, but also from a black and white. From the lighting perspective, they did masterfully do a lot of those shots too, of how they do faces and illumination and all those kind of things. So it would have worked excellently as a black and white film, but as a color film also, it's just more of a standard way of looking at film nowadays where I think it looks good. But black and white would have been totally acceptable, I think. And I think even in some ways, some shots might even be more enjoyable to some degree if they were black and white.
And speaking of enjoying, let's go to what I enjoy, and that's the award.
Transitions.
Yeah.
All right, Academy Awards USA 1960. They won a bunch. So we're Best Picture. It won Best Actor in a Leading Role, Carlton Heston. Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Hugh Griffith. Best Director, William Wyler. Best Cinematography, Color, Robert Stritz. Best Art Direction, Set Direction for Color Film, William A. Horning. Edward C. Cafnago. Hugh Hunt. Then we have Best Costume Design, Color, Elizabeth Haffenden. Best Sound, Franklin Milton. Best Film Editing, Ralph E. Winters and John D. Dunning. Best Special Effects, A. Arnold Gillespie, R.A. McDonald, and Milo B. Laurie. Best Music, Scoring of a Dramatic or Comedy Picture, Miklos Rozsa. And they were nominated for Best Writing Screenplay based on material from another medium, Carl Turnberg. Now we have the BAFTA Awards of 1960, winner of the Best Film of Any Source, that's just all over category, just
whatever.
Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, USA, 2006. They were nominated for Best Classic Film DVD Release. I was like, I wonder what it's doing in this award category in 2006. Oh, DVD release, that's right. Bambi Awards, 1961. They were nominated for Best Actor International. That's Charlton Heston.
It's not Carlton.
My bad.
Carlton
it says, that's what
It's Carlton, yeah.
Carlton, you did the Fresh Prince dance.
It's not unusual. Copyright strikes.
Charlton.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You tried.
David D. Donatello Awards, 1961. Won Best Foreign Production and Best Foreign Actor. Then we have Directors Guild of America, USA 1960. They won Outstanding Directional Achievement in Motion Pictures. The Fargo Island Film Festival, 1959. They won Outstanding Artistic Contribution. They were nominated for Best Actor, Best Film, and then they were also nominated for Best Film in the Golden Train Award category. Golden Globes, USA 1960. They won Best Motion Picture in the Drama category. Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, Stephen Boyd. They also won a special award for Andrew Martin for directing The Chariot Race in Ben-Hur. And they were nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actor Drama. Charlton Heston.
Hey.
Can't believe you guys didn't correct me the first time.
I was going to, but you were going so fast. I was like, I'm just going to see if he does it again.
A broken clock is right twice a day.
Grammy Awards 1961. They were nominated for Best Soundtrack, Album, or Recording of a Music Score from a Motion Picture Television. That is a long-winded award title. IGN Summer Movie Awards 2011. Nominated for Best Blu-ray. International Film Music Credit Awards. So they won for Best Release, Re-Release, or Re-Recording of an Existing Score. So that's pretty cool. That it basically they were able to re-release everything in its quality that it was meant. This isn't a movie. Given it being an older movie, it didn't sort of degrade over time. Like sometimes they have to remaster and what's the word I'm looking for?
Things degrade and like entropy kicks in, so it's difficult to
preservation.
Exactly.
to actually get those films properly preserved. Luckily, Ben-Hur has been preserved for this time, and will hopefully stay that way forever.
Then
with the digital market now.
Exactly. So that was the 2018 International Film Critics Award. Then we have the same award ceremony, but in 2013, where they won Best Archival Release of an Existing Score. We have the Laurel Awards 1960. They won a special award, doesn't say for what. They were nominated for Top Male Dramatic Performance, Charlton Heston. Top Male Dramatic Performance, Stephen Boyd. Top Male Supporting Performance, Hugh Griffith. Motion Picture Sound Editors, USA 1960. So it's getting a lot of sound awards. I'm noticing for the, and it was a good score.
A very dynamic soundtrack for considering the state of the decade it was released. So definitely.
Exactly, and the sound editing was top notch too. And that's highlighted by this winner of the Golden Wheel Award, Best Sound Editing Feature Film.
That's a new one, ain't it? The Golden Wheel? I don't think
this is Motion Picture Sound Editors, which we've seen, but that particular award, the Golden Wheel Award.
We have the Golden Schmooze.
The Golden Schmooze. We haven't seen the Schmooze in a while.
I know.
This hit the National Board of Review, USA 1959. They won Best Supporting Actor, Top 10 Films, and won for that direction of The Chariot Race, once again. National Film Preservation Board hit that in 2004. New York Film Critics Circle Awards, 1959, won Best Film, and then they also got nominated for Best Screenplay and Best Director. Online Film and Television Association, 1999, they won for motion picture the OFTA Film Hall of Fame. And finally, the last one we have, Writers Guild of America, USA 1960, nominated for Best Writing American Drama.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of well-deserved awards. This is an excellent film, and I really appreciate it. Moving on to the casting, for the 1959 version of Ben-Hur, we have Charlton Heston playing Judah Ben-Hur.
Carl Flornant.
Carl Flornant. Yeah. You'll recognize Charlton Heston from such movies as The Ten Commandments, Planet of the Apes, the 1968 version of Planet of the Apes, Soylent Green, The Omega Man, Tombstone, and Midway. Charlton Heston, a legendary actor in his own right, so also kind of like, wasn't like, needs no introductions, but also if you're born after the 90s, then maybe you need an introduction. It's been a while, guys. Next up, we have Stephen Boyd, plays Masala. You might recognize him in movies such as the cult classic Fantastic Voyage,
which you just recently watched.
I just watched that last week for the first time and really enjoyed it. And great film and good actor. And The Bravados, The Oscar, and Genghis Khan. Next up, we have might butcher some pronunciations here, just like Terence does. Might pull a Terence on this one, but
do it.
Hea Harry plays Esther. You'll recognize her from movies such as Journey Beneath the Desert, The Secret Partner, and Hill 24 Doesn't Respond. No, doesn't answer. My apologies. My correction. Next up, we have Hugh Griffith, classic actor in his own right. He plays Sheik Alderem. You'll recognize him from movies such as How to Steal $1 Million, the 1968 version of 1963 release of Tom Jones, and the movie The Counterfeit Trader. Next up, we have Jack Hawkins playing Quintus Arius. You'll recognize him from such movies as the original The League of Gentlemen, like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen that got remade later, kind of a more recent release. He's also in Lawrence of Arabia, Zulu, The Third Secret, and Masquerade. Next up, we have Martha Scott playing Miriam. You'll recognize her from movies such as Our Town in Old Oklahoma, and the Howards of Virginia. Then after that, we have Sam Jaffe playing Simon.
Got it.
How do you spell it?
The Simonitis. I forget, like Simonitis. I had to look at that again and try and get that right.
Simonitis?
Simonius, I believe, or something like that.
Here's the key.
It's been
just
a long
take
day.
a wild guess and say it
run with
confidently,
it.
Yeah.
and then just keep going.
You're taking professional advice from Terence, okay?
Terence, I guarantee you half the names that I've said confidently, there's somebody on the other end of this podcast going, that's not how you say the name.
You know, Terence, I see your point, but also I think maybe I'm too far gone the road of admitting I'm wrong. So I'm just gonna let's go full butcher and Terence's advice and Simon Deus. That's what I'm gonna say. Simon Deus. Why not? You'll recognize him from movies such as The Day the Earth Stood Still, where he played basically Einstein.
And that's one of your favorite movies.
That is my favorite movies of all time, and I loved him in it. And he basically plays like an Einstein-like character scientist. He was also in the movie The Asphalt Jungle and The Dunwich Horror, another classic Lovecraft movie that I appreciate really. Next up, just cast, not more related movies, but Kathy O'Donnell plays Tirzah. Then we have Finley Curry playing Balthazar, George Ralph playing Tiberius, and Kurt Dudley. That's different. Kurt Dudley's on this film. He turned down the role. But that is the cast.
Wasn't there somebody else though that was going to play?
Yes, also Marlon Brando was possibly offered to play Paul Newman, but he turned down the role because he wanted to play Masala instead. Marlon was going to play Judah, and then I believe, if I'm looking at the other character, Leslie Nielsen was offered the role to play Masala at some point, but turned down.
Hey, Kyle just cannot picture it.
I can, but also it's ridiculous.
My name is Masala. Shirley. My name is Masala. Don't call me Shirley.
With an excellent film.
Yeah.
But anyways, that is the cast of the 1959 version of Ben-Hur.
All right, so we're going to talk about this movie. I'm going to give a little facts at the beginning. Then it's basically broken down into 3 acts. Act 1, I'll say, is the history between Judah Ben-Hur and Masala and their family, all the way until the accident Act 2 will deal with the slavery / boat ship and his, I guess you'll call it adoption. And then 3, and the biggest one, will probably be the chariot race, which is one of the greatest cinematic things to ever hit the movies.
Yeah.
So, just as a way of introduction, there were over 300 sets built, which required over 5 years of research and 14 months of labor. That just sounds terrible, but it's very well done.
Yeah. This seems like an absolutely grueling task that's also made by a lot of passionate people. They did an amazing job, but I couldn't imagine tackling all the problems in this, not problems in this movie, but I mean the problems to solve to make this movie work.
I imagine this is one of those movies where, and this is sort of the caveat of making certain great movies, especially ones with high budget that have a lot of practical effects and stuff. It is a pain, and I'm sure nobody enjoyed their time while they were doing this, but the end product is amazing. That happens a lot, where a great piece of work comes out and no one particularly enjoyed doing the thing because it was so difficult and so blood, sweat, and tears kind of thing. But they enjoy the fact that the end product was something that a lot of people enjoy.
And I've got it in the notes somewhere. I don't know if I have that or not, but there's something that I read that they had 1 million props, but they hired I think it was 4 years before 10,000 potters from Italy or something to start doing all that pottery and all that. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of hands in this, and I even got a bit of information just to show how difficult it is. And this is post production, so. As you know, this was done in 65, 77, 70 millimeter prints, and because there was so much film, it was so heavy. It took 4 men with steel bars to move them, and quite often William Wyler just ended up using a crane.
Just bring me the crane.
A crane to move all the film that they had to save time.
It's crazy,
ridiculous,
and they were on a tough schedule because they had people flying out there just checking on them and all that. Several times during this film, you'll see Ben-Hur, Judah, touch the door frame, a box on the door frame of his house. This is a mezuzah. It's a case containing a passage from the Torah, which was Deuteronomy 6, 4-9, and 11, 13-21, which the Jews traditionally affix to their door frames of their houses as a constant reminder of God's presence. A lot of the actors, including Stephen Boyd, who were playing the Romans, actually wore dark contact lenses so their eyes appeared brown. And Masala's contacts bothered him so much that he had terrible pain, forcing him to reschedule scenes so he could rest his eyes. We've seen that a lot of times where they're forced to wear contacts, where some
usually with contacts in film, there's always issues, no matter what decade it comes out.
I mean, think about how sensitive your eye. Everything's an irritant when it comes to contact with your eye, so it's always going to be slightly difficult to adjust to. Even the best actors struggle with that. So give credit to
anybody who deals with it.
Yeah, especially,
Right. So basically, this story is set in Jerusalem at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that 10 square block, that set that they did, actually is historically accurate to the city of Jerusalem. So a lot of time was spent making sure everything was right, which is great. We want to see that in a movie. Mm-hmm. So basically, we're going to talk about the first act right here. We're going to go right into it. We're basically Ben-Hur and Masala has moved up in the ranks of the government. What would you say? He's not the governor yet. What would you say he is?
He's more of the regent, because it's more
commander to some degree.
Yeah, because it's more of a occupation. I wouldn't so much say that because it was the Roman occupation of Jerusalem, so it was more of he's the regent, not so much like a.
I have to brush up on my hierarchy to actually find out his position.
And more or less, he's the military commander that's in charge of that territory.
But he was excited because the governor was coming, and he wanted to make sure that everything was right for the governor.
Yeah. He's the guy you send before you send the governor.
And everything better be in shape. It's like when Lord Vader came on the Death Star. Our Emperor's coming.
But then the general comes after him and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's the kind of position he had. Masala is the Darth Vader of the Ben-Hur.
Right.
Sorry.
So,
he really is so now.
Basically, Masala's trying to get everything together, and Ben-Hur has came back from, I forgot where he was at. Do you remember where he was at? He was away, but he came to see Masala, and they're catching up and all that, and Masala's basically wanting Ben-Hur to join him, bring the Jews along with them. He's like, they're resisting, but if somebody of your hierarchy and your house name would stand up for or tell them it's okay to come follow the Romans.
Yeah.
And he's like, we won't
More or less, he was
bow
like-
down. We won't.
Yeah. Well, here's what he more or less was. He's like, I know you're a non-confrontational man and you don't want violence. And Ben-Hur's like, yeah, totally get that. And then he was like, okay, what I need you to do is if you hear anybody talk about any kind of rebellion, I need you to rat them out, more or less,
Yeah.
right? He's like, I just need you to rat out everybody who we might have a problem
And he's like,
with.
they'll listen to you.
And he's
if
like,
you go talk to them.
I'm not going to do that. Like, I have no problem speaking out against violence, which I
yeah.
will do, but I'm not just.
Well, that's what turned into
turn
like
people
his initial request was more for him to be like outspokenly submit to the Roman occupation,
Right.
and then later when he kind of very.
Like, I need you to be an informant.
Yeah. Then later, kind of demands he become an informant for these, eventual rebel sympathizers or something like that. And even then, like he didn't do. I don't think he did a as good as Masala wanted of submitting to the Roman occupation and like persuading other people to submit, which is understandable because obviously he didn't want to.
Yeah.
But and then later he demanded to be an informant, which he declined to do.
Right.
And then we go more further into the plot, which I'll let you guys cover.
So then Masala goes visits Ben-Hur's family, and he's like, "Oh, I remember this place. This is where I grew up. Over here, we ran around and played over here, and all that. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And then basically, he's like, "I'm not doing it." You know what I mean? So fast forward a little bit, if you will. The governor's coming, and everything has to be perfect. So, and what we should point out is this is called the Tale of the Christ because this is centered around the time of Christ, and he is seen throughout the movie, but only from behind. And Joseph, his dad, because there's where they're working in the wood shop, and the Romans are coming down,
Yeah.
and he's like, you see Jesus and Joseph or whatever.
It's almost like Christ in this movie is almost like a force of nature in a way where like the story is about Ben-Hur, but the world is changing around him because of Jesus Christ being born and the acts he's taking around the world.
Right.
That's what seems to be the kind of the situation in the movie as I see it.
It's like the story behind the story.
Yeah, the story behind the story. The world is changing around Ben-Hur. He doesn't realize it till the end that like his life has been changed in a way that he didn't understand until the end of the movie by Jesus Christ, even though he didn't realize it.
Right.
So yeah.
So basically, now we're up to where the governor's coming, and they've got all the armies and all their garb and all that, and Ben-Hur and his sister go up to the top of this house to catch a view. And they're, his sister's excited. She's leaning over, and just as the governor's coming, a slab of these old tiles fall off the roof and crashes down, almost hitting the governor. And it kicks him off, I do believe, doesn't it?
I believe it hits the horse,
startled,
it buckles up, and he falls
yeah,
off.
the horse buckles, and
Yeah,
he falls.
a great piece of little foreshadowing too, because I love like the very first time his sister touches the tiling, it actually, as soon as she lets go, it shifts down like an inch, and then later they come back to the scene where she goes touches it again, and then immediately falls and hits the governor head. Brilliant little use to actually get practical effects of bringing it down just a little bit, so like, oh, it's unsteady when you rewatch it, and then you see it the next time where it fully falls. So it's like it's good signaling, good filmmaking.
So basically, Ben-Hur's like, "Oh no!" He's like, "Get out of here!"
Immediately realize like this is gonna go bad.
Yeah. So they go downstairs and they're banging on the door. Open up, open up, open up. And Ben-Hur's, "Don't say anything. You were never up there," or whatever. So they come in, and here comes Masala and him, and the soldiers come in and say, "Who did it?" He's like, "It was an accident." The roof. They basically arrest Ben-Hur, and Masala comes in. He's like, "Masala." He's like, "It was an accident. The roof came down." And he's like, "What about these two?" He's like, "Take them," because you can tell he's upset that Ben-Hur did not follow what he wanted him to do.
Yeah.
From long ago. It's holding a grudge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said like he sees this as an opportunity, even though he knows Ben-Hur is innocent.
Right.
But he sees this as an opportunity, like if I punish Ben-Hur and then punish his family, then
Maybe
I make
people will fall in line.
I establish that I have a iron-willed authority and have zero remorse.
Right.
When it comes to my subjects.
Right.
And
what I liked about that is the reason that's true because he goes up to the roof and he leans over and another tile falls.
Immediately falls
and
down.
You're like, oh, well, he knows, so he knows.
Yeah, he clearly like even if he didn't go to the roof, he could still infer like Judah wouldn't do this. But even then, he gets that physical proof basically of evidence that like saying like these tiles are unsteady and stuff like that. So like he completely he's entirely within his right to be certain that Ben-Hur didn't commit this crime.
And I think he does know he didn't do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But he capitalizes on that just to secure his role that he's a firm authority that will discipline anyone, even
Because he's also trying to climb the ranks himself.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So and not only that, but what's the governor going to say if this happened on my watch? You know what I mean?
He did nothing about it.
Feared
Oh,
for
it was
his
an
life.
accident when I got injured. What? You know,
Right.
On the day that I arrived. Really?
I think it's an assassination attempt, is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So basically, Ben-Hur is now thrown in jail. His sister and mother are thrown in jail.
His sister and the slave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. His slave, his sister and the slave are from jail. His mother too.
His mother
you're
too.
right.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Because he's the slave was like no, and he's like he kept two.
That's right. Yeah.
So now Ben-Hur
Sorry,
is
it's not funny.
Ben-Hur is being brought. Where's he going? Where's he going? Do they have him in handcuffs? And he breaks away.
They put him in a holding area while they separate him from his sister, his mother, and his slave, and they keep him in like a holding cell. And then when they say they're going to take him down to the pits immediately without even talking to Masala, he then attacks the guards and then runs through the building to reach Masala.
Right, and he picks up that spear, man. And
Yeah.
Masala's like, he ain't gonna do nothing to me. He tells all the guards to get out. It's like he ain't gonna do it. And even though we've seen earlier in the movie, he could throw that spear perfectly where he wanted
Yeah.
to. So Masala knew he's not playing around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So basically, Masala's like, look, you don't want to do this. Where you got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
He's like, you kill me, and they'll be in here, and you'll never see your family again. Basically.
Well, no, he even more gruesome threat. He said your mother and your sister will be held on crosses in front of you while you die. So he has to watch their dead bodies as he himself is dying. As I'm sure many Christians are familiar with the cross punishment, how brutal those are. Having to watch your family members endure that while you yourself endure that. Very gruesome threats.
Right. So basically, we have Ben-Hur. He puts the spear down, and they grab him. So now we're getting ready to come up to Act 2, as we like to call it, or as I like to call it, which is the slavery / adoption and all that. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead. I wasn't going to correct you. Yeah, the slavery / adoption.
Did we cover all our stuff for Act 1?
I didn't have much for Act 1. That was about all I had. A lot of it's Act 3, of course.
Yeah.
I got a couple things for Act 2, so I was going to throw those in here real quick. So basically now Ben-Hur's on a slave ship, rowing. And what was really cool today that we saw in that museum is they had one of the little, me and Kyle was in the little back room, and in one of the cases they had one of the little dummies that was probably about 6 to 8 inches tall. That was part of the ship scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right about
Very
there.
cool.
Small little rubber model. Looked really kind of impressive. And, part of the original sets they made for that ocean battle, the naval combat.
And it was really well done.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of that, one of the models of the Roman ships was on display at the amusement park Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, Missouri. It was outside and exposed to the elements for many, many years. So that's really cool. If any of our listeners has a picture of that, and they went there from Kansas City, they had a picture that I'm sure it's probably destroyed by now, but if they had a picture, that'd be pretty cool to see.
But so if there's any remains, it's still worth keeping in memory.
And so a nice bit of realism in any kind of big budget film. The raft that Judah and Arius leaves behind when saved at sea is seen gradually drifting away within the picture frame during the first scene of the rescue ship. So it's kind of like a continuation, like, hey, the raft's going away, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Great continuity in the film, still, even especially for the time, all the more impressive.
So,
Yeah.
So Kyle, why don't you tell us, the slave ship was attacked by who?
Wasn't Macedonians, I believe?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe. Well, that wasn't. It was their initial attack. I believe it was the Macedonians. If I'm wrong, but this will be very embarrassed. But I believe it was the Macedonians.
You watched it 4 times.
I'm going to keep saying Macedonians and really hope it still is. But I believe it is the Macedonians were causing trouble along the Roman fleet's trade routes. And so the Roman general, his name Quintus Arius, was then tasked with leading a fleet of Roman ships to destroy the Macedonian fleet. And in that battle, so they were the initial attackers on the Macedonian fleet, and then a Macedonian ship crashed intentionally rammed his Roman ship, for which he was able to escape from because his chain was left unhooked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I thought it was really interesting, the part where the guy was playing the jump, the guy aborted the thing, and he's like, was this one been giving you trouble? He's like, he's like, he won't no more or whatever. And then they do that pounding drum. He's like, row harder, left, right.
Yeah.
The drum beat by the drum beat, you could tell how they were supposed to row, which I thought was very interesting too.
Yeah, it was a great way of exemplifying how hard that kind of task would be too.
What was his name? Aries?
Yes, Quintus Arius.
Yeah. He saw something in Ben-Hur too.
Yeah.
Because he could see that, he was just watching him as he was rowing and everything. So when Ben-Hur decided to save his, he's like, why were you unchained. You know what I mean? He basically saw something in Ben-Hur that he knew he wasn't going to escape, but he could be an ally. I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so clearly, like seeing something special about him to some degree, like even like, and kind of departs into like this is a film of divinity and religious significance to them. So like the idea that he has almost a spiritual awakening just in the presence of Ben-Hur, to the point where he doesn't really understand why he knows that Ben-Hur is an important character in his life, going to be.
So the ship gets crashed. They get picked up. Arius's fellow crew picked up. He said, Ben-Hur saved me. Basically, comes down to the point where Arius adopts Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
Which is saying something because he gives him this ring and all that, you know.
And this is all in the span of around. He's actually
stuff.
like they've kind of later mentioned it, but he's actually this whole slave point in his life is a period of about 4 years, roughly, from being taken down to working the ships to being freed by Quintus Arius and adopted by Quintus Arius.
Right. And he's like, look, you can roam around my house all you want and all that. You know, he gave him responsibility too. Basically, as a son.
Yeah,
if you will.
Literally. Yeah, well, actually, it did say, I believe, if I remember correctly, he served about 3 years, or I think it was either 2 or 3 years, on the Roman ship. And then as soon as they got back, he later had him. The Roman Empire, the Caesar had him bequeathed upon Quintus Arius' responsibility as his own personal slave, and then Quintus Arius had him do chariot races during that time. That's seen off camera. That's why not seen off camera, shown off camera, and later sent in the speech that Quintus Arius made him do chariot races, and then adopted him as a son later on. So to establish that, even before, I believe it's implied that Judah had a lot of experience of horses beforehand, but then later he's made an actual chariot racer during off camera, and that explains where he goes in the third act.
Now I have a question. Did he ever officially accept to become his son? Because remember when he says he brings him up to that rooftop or whatever, and he's going to give him the ring. I think he says, "Look, you make me proud. I want you to be my son." He's like, "Well, what I need to do is I need to go back to Jerusalem." I don't know. Did he ever officially become his son?
He does. So, there's a whole ceremony thing where he accepted, and he wore the ring, and he does actually wear the ring up until, he gets home and declares that he's now renouncing that name and then reclaiming his old name. But at the time, I do believe he accepts it.
Yeah, he does always own it. He doesn't. Like the formality of adopting him officially is done by Quintus Arius. So in the eyes of Rome, he is the son of Quintus Arius always, even if Ben-Hur would decline it.
But doesn't that also make him a free man then?
Yes, it does make him a free man. So he is freed of his slavery, and he is made the son of Quintus Arius in the eyes of Rome, and so he is his own free man at that point. And he does see Quintus Arius as an adoptive father in his own eye, even if he still sees himself as his own man and not necessarily of the Quintus Arius name necessarily. But he's still for all intents and purposes, he is his son now to a degree. Yeah.
Right. And so basically, it's come to the time where Judah Ben-Hur has decided he's going back home. He really wants to find his mom and sister because he thinks they're still being held captive or whatever. Remember? And he tells him, look, he's like, I'm going back.
And we didn't mention this in the Act of 1, but even when when Masala finally makes him a slave and sends him off, Ben-Hur swears that he will have his vengeance revenged,
right,
and that he will actually come back and say, and he never lose sight of that goal, even as he's a slave. It's part of his journey that he always maintained his own faith that he would in some way get back and have his vengeance, or find a way to make right as the wrong that has been done to him, even if that kind of changes to be less about vengeance and more about growing in his own personal faith.
Right. So basically, Ben-Hur now arrives back at Jerusalem, and how does he come across the Saudi prince or the Saudi guy? Remember,
I believe he's resting along the trees, and then I believe it's supposed to be one of the three wise men. I forget. It's supposed to be one of them.
It was.
Comes across him.
How their initial interaction went was he was having problem wrangling his horses, and then Ben-Hur comes and helps calm the horses, and then they start having a conversation about it, and he's like, these are my babies, and then
well, that one guy was trying to race him around that track too. Remember?
That's what it was. Okay, that's what it was. So they were having trouble controlling the horses around. He's like, well, you're doing your turns all wrong. Like, these are these types of horses, so you need to control them like this. And then that had sparked his interest. So then they had a conversation, and then he was trying to get him. He's like, "Why don't you just train my horses?
Yeah.
Because you know what you're doing."
Yeah. Well, also there's an intermediary to some degree, because I believe I forget the character's name off the top of my head, but it was the character who met Jesus Christ at his birth and now is looking for him as an adult, because he could be an adult now. And
That's right. Because he was asking questions.
Yeah, and he kind of serves as an intermediary between Ben-Hur and the Sheik, kind of explaining some of the Sheik's customs to Ben-Hur to make sure they have a pleasant meeting, basically, at first.
Yeah.
And ensuring those things are going to go forward. So that's kind of like their initial kind of meeting, that this character works as an intermediary between them.
So now we're up to the point where basically we're going to go into Act 3, which is probably the biggest part of the movie. Well, actually, probably went to an intermission here at some point. So now we're going to go into Act 3, and Ben-Hur has now become a really, really good chariot racer.
Yeah.
And so you see...
He made a name for himself in Rome.
Well, but Masala doesn't know this.
We're going too far. Okay, you continue on. You're going to go. Never mind. You got it.
So Masala doesn't know this, because the Saudi guy goes to him. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Hey, I'll bet you, some odds
that a Jew could defeat the Roman." Yeah.
Right. He's like, "Well, would you take?" Well, I forgot what the exact bet was. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was basically an unbelievable amount of money that this guy's betting.
Yeah, a ridiculous sum of
Masala, because they all scoff at him, and then he says how much he's bringing to the table, and everybody's like, "Oh,
this guy's serious."
And then even Masala was like,
and then he goads him in by saying, like, "Oh, well, I mean, if you're saying that you guys can't,
if the Roman people aren't proud,
right?" Exactly. That was the funny part, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's been about 4 weeks since I watched this. You know what I mean? So I know Kyle's more brushed up on it. So if we're mixing some names up or some events,
I'm trying to make sure I get the order right. But actually, you were right in the order. I thought you were about to jump the gun, but you didn't.
No. I wasn't going to go that far. So now this big race is coming up, and is this when does Ben-Hur reveal that he is the chariot racer?
Ben-Hur sends a gift of, I believe it's a short sword. He sends like a very decorative short sword that he gifts to Masala as a random kind of like postage mail sent like thing. It's like, we got from the son of Quintus Ares, we received a gift. And so he gives, basically a slave or a post worker gives him the gift, and then Masala opens it up like, "This is a fine gift. I can't believe this person never met." And then Ben-Hur, who's basically cast in shadow right now at the moment, it's like, "Actually, you are wrong. You have met me before." And then he comes forward and announces, "I'm Ben-Hur. I am the son of Quintus Ares." And then he tells a story that I was a slave for Quintus Ares, but I saved his life, and then he adopted me, and I became royalty. Which, man, what a baller move!
So basically, he can't do anything to him. I mean, that's the beauty of it. You know what I mean? You can't probably throw him to jail.
Imagine Masala's perspective, like your worst enemy. You sent him off to be a slave, and he comes back richer than you, and you're just like, what?
Yeah. And not only that, man, but he is buffed now because he was rolling them ships and everything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
He went out and got jacked.
So now
biggest flex in 50s films.
So now Masala knows that Ben-Hur is the chariot race for the Saudi guy. I forgot his
for the Sheik.
I can't think of the Sheik's name.
Ildirim, I believe. Sheik Ildirim.
So you can tell that Masala is like, he's kind of worried, but he's like, I can still beat him. You know what I mean? Because isn't he uses the horse because Ben-Hur gifted him a horse earlier in the movie? Remember?
Yes, I believe he does use a horse in the race, but also he uses Masala also feels confident because he uses a Roman chariot, which is basically has the spiked wheels, basically an illegal weapon. Masala knows he's going to win because he's basically cheating.
He is the Sebulba the pod racing.
He's the guy who has the car that's worth 10 times more than the other car. For some reason he wins every year. I don't know why. Yeah. That's kind of Masala's game plan.
So now the chariot race is at the beginning. Before we jump into that, let's cover
we have so much about the chariot race.
Yeah, so
yes.
We'll start with the bad, so then we can sweeten it all up with everything else.
Because sadly a lot of horses died during the filming of this movie.
150 to be exact.
Well, there might even be more.
That we don't know. Those 150 at least.
Yeah. So you'll hear Larry, the director of the museum, talk about some of that later on in his interview. The chariot race required 15,000 extras on a set required on 18 acres of a backlot at Cincita Studios outside of Rome. Tour buses visited the set every hour. 18 chariots were built, with half being used for practice, and the race took 5 weeks to film.
Yeah. And not only did it take 5 weeks to film, but just this scene alone took $1 million and required more than 200 miles of racing to complete.
It is almost impossible to understate just how immense the task of filming the chariot race was, and this entire film, more broadly speaking, but just even the chariot race itself. It's just like, could you imagine taking on this kind of project?
Because you have to,
And not only that,
you
but
have to train all the horses.
That's true.
Yeah. You have to train all the stunt actors, everything like that. Have to keep people safe, and like all the dead horses, and then just getting the food for 1,500 people every day. You're all getting all those extras, make sure they're in the right makeup, right outfits, all those things. Like, there's thousands upon thousands of decisions that have to be made every single day you're filming. So it's like, it's an insane project. It's amazing anything gets done in the world, let alone this movie.
And the reason why they were able to amass so many extras is because at the time, economic conditions in Italy were pretty poor. So they were like, hey, we're hiring X amount of extras. And a bunch of people jumped on it. They actually had to cap people at 1,500 extras because there were so many people who were trying to be an extra on this film. Because on June 6th, more than 3,000 people were seeking work, and they had to be turned away because they were all trying to, do this extra work. And there was actually a riot at one point where they were throwing stones and assaulting the set gates until the police arrived and finally dispersed.
Oh, so it's just like biblical times.
And then on the more
Film the stoning, you got half the movie right there. You're saving money.
And some of the other things that happened were dynamite charges were used to show the chariot wheels and axles splintering for effects and stuff. And also when Masala's wheel attacked other chariots, 3 lifelike dummies were placed in key points in the race to give the appearance of men being run over by chariots.
Right, and I got a lot more about that too.
Yeah.
Positively brutal to watch too.
By the way, the sum wagered against Masala and the Sheik was a 4-to-1 odds on 1,000 talents, which is equivalent to today about $700 million. Yeah, he wasn't messing around.
As they would say today, that's chic money.
The chariot scene alone cost about $4 million, or about 1/4 of the entire budget.
Yeah.
It shows.
It does, yeah. You can see every penny on screen.
During the making of the Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston had learned how to handle a 2-horse chariot, but when he arrived in Rome, he instantly began lessons on 4-horse chariot racing with the film stunts coordinator Yakima Canute. Unlike Stephen Boyd, he only had 2 weeks to do. Charlton Heston got there early, so he got a little bit more time. But can you imagine the pressure and the blisters and all that's going on? He said his hands were like...
And here's another... And so I kind of spoke on it when, we opened up the podcast in the beginning when I was, talking about the just information about the movie. But back to cutting for this film, cutting the film for this. So the chariot race had a 263-to-1 cutting ratio. That means for every 263 feet of film, only 1 foot was used.
That's crazy.
Probably the highest for any 70 millimeter sequence ever filmed.
Yeah, I mean, you're like,
That's insane.
You're literally doing away just thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
No, it was like $1 million per something, wasn't it? $1 million per reel? Or,
no, 70 millimeter is expensive.
I thought I gave that to you, how much it was, but...
I don't have... let's see.
I'll try and find it on
I do
YouTube.
know that alot was writing on this film for MGM, because this was MGM production, and obviously this was a massive film with a massive budget, and it was a huge gamble by the studio itself to save itself from bankruptcy, because they were on the verge of bankruptcy. If this movie didn't make it, they would have tanked. MGM wouldn't have been a thing. But the gamble paid off, and obviously we know that it made $75 million by the end of the year.
Oh, I forgot to tell you this. I wanted to mention this because I can see Kyle doing this. Are you ready? During the 18-day auction of MGM props, costumes, memorabilia that took place in May of 1970, when new studio owner Kirk Kerkorian was liquidating the studio's asset, a Sacramento restaurateur paid $4,000 for a chariot used in this film. And this would be Kyle. 3 years later, during the energy crisis, he was arrested for driving the chariot on the highway.
If you got it, you got it.
Can you imagine we came home the interstate today, can you imagine looking over, seeing a chariot just going by?
Oh, man. Hilarious.
After a few days of shooting, Andrew Martin discovered the most effective way to shoot in the arena would be to have the cameras right in the midst of the race. So that basically having a camera car that moved with the chariots. He also noted that the best shots on the curves were done using a specifically built camera chariot with rubber tires. So we had a camera chariot.
Yeah.
The chariot race was shot MOS without sound. This was added in post-production when the decision was also made to not have any music throughout the sequence. And I just noticed that. There was no music throughout that whole thing. It was all just the horses.
Just the horse.
Yeah.
So I do have some information about the cameras that they were when they were shooting that particular race. So they were using the 65 millimeter cameras. He had 3 to shoot that race. A larger format film proved to be an issue. So the standard close-up lenses, 35 millimeter photography, was 100 millimeter. So they had to do some trickery with the lenses and whatnot. And it became, in the widescreen process, a 200 millimeter lens, which could not be focused closer than 50 feet. So Morton, the director of photography, had to use a 140 millimeter lens, requiring he and his crew to move closer to the dangerous action of the race. So, in short, what all that technical jargon means is the lenses that they had available for their cameras, in order to get the best shots, they had to be in the thick of it.
Well, also during the shot of the chariot swinging around the large curve, of the arena, 2 of the vehicles smashed into the cameras, which were fortunately protected by wooden barricades. Nevertheless, production was held up for small repairs and testing on the cameras. No cast, crew, or horses were badly injured in the mishap. So it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure it was still very expensive.
For some sequences in the chariot race, some of the chariots had 3 horses instead of 4. This enabled the camera car to move in closer. So that's another way they got around that.
With the 4th horse is implied to be there, but in reality, you're kind of inside that horse's.
You are that horse.
You are the horse.
The chariot arena was built by more than 1,000 workers beginning in January of '58. According to some reports, it was over 2,000 feet long by 65 feet wide and covered 18 acres, the largest single set in motion picture history for that time. Repeatedly, 40,000 tons of white sand were imported from Mexico for the track.
That's a lot of sand.
Stuntman Cliff Lyons worked as a stuntman and chariot driver in both this film and the original Ben-Hur, A Tale of Christ from 1925.
Oh, wow.
That's really cool. And I also think the lady, I forget her name, Mary or May something, she was in there too. They were the 2 actors that did that. So we already had that. We talked about that.
Well, here's something that's interesting. So this is how grand the chariot race is. When film students are given a tour at the Panavision facility, they're basically shown this race in full 70 millimeter ultra Panavision, just to showcase how grand this is.
Oh, it's
sorry about the size.
They're coming. They're coming for us.
It's going to get masala.
Run, Terence, run!
It's going to get masala.
So that's how grand sort of this scene was to film, that it's still to this day shown to film students in its 70 millimeter print in the Ultra Panavision screen, which, by the way, like we mentioned before, there's not too many places you can view a movie in 70 millimeter prints.
Yeah, I'm looking at the price for actually film reels, the stuff that you can still buy today, which is actually just film reels, and they're $100 minimum for reels that or even $1,700 for extremely rare Star Trek 3 trailers and 70 millimeters. So it's hard to get 70 millimeters nowadays, especially expensive then too.
While they were working on the main set for the chariot races, an identical track was constructed next to the track to train the horses and the drivers, and also lay out camera shots. So I'm sure it wasn't all up to date and pretty. It's probably just here's dirt. Go take care of it. Let's see.
So when I was also talking before about some of the heartache that this was to film, a lot of it was because they were outdoor filming. At one point, they were having trouble with the lighting, so they actually had to wait until later in the year, where they shot in December, because the days were shorter and they can get closer to the horizon sooner. and then try to get as much filming done in that time span as they could. Another huge issue they had, along with the zooming and everything, was the lenses they had could only fixate on one subject and not two. So a lot of the times they had to figure out how to split focus the cameras in order to get two different people. And there's a couple different techniques that they used in order to get everybody into focus when they had more than one subject in view.
Right. Ben-Hur, basically, the director had a hard time getting him to show emotions because he's a manly man. You know, Charlton Heston was a manly man. So when Masala was dying at the chairways, the director insisted on multiple takes. He wanted Ben-Hur to show complete indifference to his dying of his former friend, something that Charlton Heston was hard to deliver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you kind of got that feeling like, you're dying. Good for you. We don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult task to be asked to be vulnerable on film, like,
Right.
especially going back even that time. You're not allowed to be vulnerable as a man's man. You know, and in an older context, and even now, it's still difficult.
Well, not only that, but they said that Heston wouldn't cry. He couldn't. Anytime you see Ben-Hur cry, he always covers his face or buries his hands. You never actually see the emotion on his face.
Yeah.
That's one way to get around it. Of course, Terence talked about this, about the dummies they used. Between the stuntman and the dummies that they had kneeling, it looked like that guy really got ran over. You know what I mean? So there's
It
a lot of
looked
stuff
brutal,
here.
yeah.
So this is really crazy, and this is one of the things that most shocked me about this film is the shot where Masala's body is being dragged behind his own chariot was tried first with a dummy, but it was unconvincing. It was decided to have the chariot pull Stephen Boyd along the ground at high speed, so a steel pan molded to his body was fabricated to protect him. In spite of this precaution, Boyd suffered skin burns and some permanent scarring.
I'm not surprising he has permanent scarring because how brutal that would have been. I mean, you're like, hey, the reason it's called sandpaper. You're not sand. Like, you're gonna get burned.
You had to, that's the thing you got to do in one take, and hopefully you don't need another.
Yeah. Man, someone out there is having a seriously bad day right now.
As I say, man, chariot number 2 has crashed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe that's the fire department.
Yeah.
Roof is on fire.
So here's a really fascinating thing. So we know it was only a couple months before, the box office came out for that year. And a big reason why this was able to jump so far ahead of all the other movies and make as much as it did is for the initial 35 millimeter release. That means, regular theatrical release. In order to meet the terms of the exhibition contract, exhibitors had to increase ticket prices for the special event presentation. So basically, they raised their ticket prices, some more than double the standard admission prices, and some even charged different pricing based on the time of day where the seats were located and everything. And but despite the expensive ticket prices, audiences still were rushing to get to this movie, and the domestic and international grosses reportedly came in more than 10 times the film's staggering production cost. As you guys know, was quite a lot. So despite them, doubling the ticket prices, people were still watching the movie.
Another memorable scene in this movie, because basically Ben-Hur wins a chariot race. Masala ends up, he's either going to die or he's going to be permanently paralyzed.
Well, either die or lose his legs.
Legs, right?
Likely, yeah.
Well,
paralyzed.
Yeah,
Also, paralyzed implies you still have them.
Well, I mean,
he was probably going to have them amputated.
Yeah. So, and then some more stuff happens that we won't give away the rest of the movie because something happens because another underlying of this story is that Ben-Hur's mom and sister have been released from prison, but they are lepers and they were sent to a leper colony, and his Ben-Hur's, is she his wife or his former girlfriend?
Well, is now his significant other.
Right.
I don't think did they ever explicitly get married in the film? I don't remember.
I don't know. But she knows, and she has been taking them food and water and stuff. Yeah. He's like, "Why did you move those down here?"
Yeah.
But we won't. I'm not going to go into that. Or that's a whole other can of worms we could open up. It'll be a whole other hour. So just some stuff at the end. The guy that played the director was so taken by the actor Remington Olmsted, who plays the Decorian soldier who denies Ben-Hur water on the slave drive, No Water for You, discovered that the actor had casually been replaced during the shoot. He demanded Olmsted be found and returned at whatever cost. It wasn't too hard. Claude Heater, who played Christ, was a regular at Olmsted's restaurant Rome on location, so he went to go get him and I guess bring him back. The line "No water for him" was on the set catchphrase for the remainder of the shoot. When everybody made a mistake, one of the several actors or the crew members would shout "No water for him." So every time Terence makes a mistake on the podcast now, it's "No water for Terence."
No water for him.
Over 50,000 people were involved in making of the film, including 365 speaking parts in the main cast. So there's that. There was no wrap-up party after the shooting of Ben-Hur, probably because they were all too tired or sick or didn't want to do it.
I want to be done.
Yeah.
I want to move on.
We talked about that. Ben-Hur generated another $20 million from merchandising, including books, toys, candy, perfume, neckties, jewelry, gowns, chariot-shaped tricycles, and Ben-Hur and Ben-His bath towels.
Actually, at the museum, we even saw some. We saw a container of allspice and I believe a dried basil.
Yeah, really early in on the
And they sell T-shirts and coffee mugs that says Ben-Hur done that. So I bought my dad the coffee mug. So
very classic.
Yeah, the
Ben-Hur, the Tale of Christ, now in T-shirts. Now with T-shirts.
Ben-Hur the flamethrower.
Ben-Hur the hat. I'm like, what?
The wardrobe had warehouse contained over 11,000 costumes, including some 1,000 suits of armor, which is really cool because if you see on our Facebook page, we posted a picture of one of the extras in the Roman armor.
Yeah, Halloween's around the corner, guys.
Silk for one of Ben-Hur's costumes came from Thailand. 10,000 Italians were employees for filming. The sculptor shop employed 200 skilled artists to turn out statues, potteries, and friezes, whatever those are. I'm not very cultural inclined. What's a freezy?
A freezy?
It's not them things you freeze in the icy popsicle.
That's what I'd like a freezy is. That's what I tell myself it is.
Frank Thring had the odd distinction of playing both Pontius Pilate in this film and Herod Antipas in King of Kings for his next film. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and say what we think of this movie, and then we'll throw in the interview. So Terence, we'll start off with you. What did you think of Ben-Hur overall? It's long.
It is a long movie, and I was glad for the intermission. I actually just paused and watched it the next day because it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's a chore. it's a long movie. For sure. It is a commitment. That's a better word for it. Yeah, it's quite the commitment.
Is this your first time seeing it?
It is my first time seeing it. And no, it's a really well told story. Like it's a well written story, and at some point I'll tell myself I'll read the book and then hopefully read it, but more than likely I won't. But I'll try.
Put it on our backlogs that are forever growing and never
a forever backlog of everything. But no, it was a very well told story, very well filmed. And as far as movies with a religious context, and I think this one ranks the highest of all the ones I've seen. It's a really good film with that. It's got those religious tones. It's the best one I've seen. It's just a really well told story, and it's interesting because it's not even like the forefront of it. It's just that ever so changing presence that's not the focal point of the movie, but it's there.
Yeah,
and that's very interesting. And it's fascinating. But yeah, no, it's a really good movie. I enjoyed watching it. And that's what I have for it. I'd say it is a must watch for those who enjoy watching, film that changed film in some way. And in this one, it did, it not only with what it did with the 70mm prints, but you'll hear it in the interview that we have after this. It also brought film to the forefront of Los Angeles and made that the focal point of film instead of some other locations that could have very well possibly been the focal point of film instead of LA. And if it's also a must-see if you just like watching religious movies. This one is a must-watch if you haven't seen it.
I would say it's a must-watch just for the chariot race,
Yeah,
if nothing
for the
else.
chariot race.
That is one of the greatest cinematic moments in probably movie history.
And it's that's like 15, 20 minutes of just that
Non-stop
chariot race.
action.
Yeah.
People getting run over. People getting destroyed.
It's really good.
I like the guys that come out with the little stretcher.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate what they had to do to get the scene done, but I mean, what's been done is done. So let's
but it's like
watch
one
it.
thing, like no one's even like no filmmakers even competing to kind of top that scene in a practical way at all.
Yeah.
Nor should they necessarily. But it is still amazing to see a scene that clearly had so much work and risk and cost put into it. And
I mean, it's
really
a
impressive.
quarter of your budget.
Oh yeah, quarter of your budget just for
One scene.
for what less than a tenth of the film.
15 minutes of in a 3-hour movie.
Yeah. So it's incredible. So
All right, Kyle. Terrence gave us his. Give us your thoughts.
I'm gonna echo a lot of Terrence's opinion there, where I think this is probably a lot of people will have their kind of favorites in like faith-based cinema with specifically about faith-based fiction stories, or not fiction necessarily, but like Last Temptation of Christ or Passion of the Christ or films of those kind of natures, which deal with the historical nature of the biblical stories. And I think Ben-Hur kind of by far is my favorite in that category of being like a film I like to watch. Like Ten Commandments is really good. Story of Moses, like those films are also, they have their own great qualities, but Ben-Hur is by far just an amazing film on its own right, even outside of its religious context. And with its religious context, it far is the king of that category. So I think this is a must watch for all film buffs.
Exactly.
And and especially for people who like historical fiction, it's worth watching. And people who have a religious persuasion of simply in the Christian and Jewish faiths, it's a must watch for them. I think it's a great film.
And that's one thing I do want to add is you don't necessarily have to be one of faith to enjoy the movie.
Yeah, no, I think the film is completely enjoyable. Like even if you're not, it's not necessarily a movie of preaching, but nearly a telling of a story that is known very much. And the matter of faith is how you believe the truthfulness of the story or the meaning or purpose of faith and God and divinity and all those kind of things, which is a deeply personal thing for many people in their own lives. So each their own on that. But I found it highly enjoyable. Jimbo, how did you feel about this?
Man, it's a great movie. I like all those epic movies like that, dude. I like the Ten Commandments. I like Gone with the Wind. I like the movies where you have the overture at the beginning and you have the intermission, and just the way they're filmed. You don't see. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like they're vibrant in colors, and it's just you get more out of the characters because of their facial expressions and the situations they're in. And Charlton Heston nailed it in this one. I really liked him. I really liked Masala. I thought he did a really fantastic job in this.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody in this did a great job. To me, I've seen it multiple times. It had been a long time since I had watched it. If you have 3.5 hours, 3 hours 40 minutes,
which is not a guarantee nowadays.
No, if you,
I know, right?
but I mean, if you break this down into
Those
half
3
hour
acts,
or even half hour or the 3 acts we talked about, it'd be easier to swallow the movie. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's interesting to see a movie that is set at biblical times, but not focused on the biblical narrative of Christ. You know, I mean, he was in the background, but you get a visual of what was happening around the time of Christ.
That's okay. Like you feel how the world changes,
was changing around
with the birth of Christianity in this film, and like around Ben-Hur, and like Ben-Hur is almost like this outside observer of the birth of Christianity in this film. So that's why I think it actually resonates with people peers, because like it's a movie about in his own way finding Christ in his own way.
Well, that and you also see the hatred the Romans and the Jews have for each other and why. Mm-hmm. So you see a lot of the history of that side too. So I really enjoy this movie. I think everybody should see it. If you have time.
Exactly.
But it is in the top 100 movies for a reason.
Yeah, but especially like I think like with films such as like this movie with like the intermission and the prelude and all those kind of things, like it gives it a sense of formality that this is an event that you are expected to be part of as well. Like it's kind of a thing that's kind of lost in even big films nowadays, where it doesn't feel like this almost feels like you're going to a special event like a party or something like that, or like a formal gathering to watch this film. Whereas new films, which are also amazing in their own right, instead feel like a celebration, which is going to happen regardless if you're there or not.
And how good was that overture? That Ben-Hur theme is amazing.
Yeah. It's striking. It demands your attention. Right. Even like when we were showing you nothing because you were hearing.
It starts off just dun dun dun, and then it starts going into the later on it starts going into the lovely thing. Then you go back to the awesomeness.
Yeah. In modern verbiage, it didn't have to go that hard, but it did. Yeah, exactly.
So they didn't. That was another thing. Is just this movie really nailed it, and it really deserved all of the awards it got as far as sound production and music production.
Excellent.
They really went all out with the movie.
Right. Were there some casualties along the way? Yes. I mean, we can't deny that there were horses killed. Maybe some of the way the people were treated, we don't know.
Films that era all have the
they
same
even had like a makeshift hospital set up where people go in there and rest and all that because just the grueling heat and the scheduling. Man, it was crazy. So, with that being said, you know how we feel. I think we're going to go ahead and add the interview with Larry Paarlberg, who is the director of the General Lew Wallace Study Museum, right here. So, hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back right after this. All right, guys, we're back with the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, and we are live on location at the General Lew Wallace Museum and Study in Crawfordsville, Indiana. And our tour guide, Larry, what was your last name? Paarlberg has decided to sit down with us and answer some questions and maybe give you guys some history on Lew's life and some facts and stuff that from Ben-Hur, joined by Terence and Kyle as well.
Hello. We are here. Hello.
If we have any questions, Larry has agreed to answer them. So, Larry?
Make something up.
Yeah. He can lie with the best of them.
We won't know the difference. You're good.
All right, Larry. So the first thing that stuck out to me when we sat down and did the tour was that General Lew Wallace did so much in his life. If I could even accomplish a tenth of what he did, I mean, he was a painter, he was a writer, he was
musician,
inventor,
a literal general.
Little general in there. Yeah,
right. Yeah. But to actually be hand selected by Abraham Lincoln. So if you want to go into a little bit about that, and then we'll get into his writings and stuff. So,
well, Lew, I don't know if he would qualify as an alternative learner by today's terms. Fascinated by different things and all self-taught. He was not gifted in the classroom at all. I'm sure teachers in Western Indiana were thrilled when he didn't show up for class, but he was very curious about things, and so very self-directed, very self-taught, fascinated by the military from a very young age. His dad, David, who was an early governor of Indiana, was actually also an early graduate of the West Point Military Academy. And so Lew was fascinated by his father's military training and career as a child. Some of the earliest drawings we have by Lew are of military kinds of things based on his dad's going off to the Black Hawk War. So Lew, if he found something that was of interest to him, he would do it. He would figure it out. All of his art that he did was self-taught. His music was all self-taught. He played the violin. At a young age, he got very interested in the history of Spain and Mexico. And here's a kid in 1840 Indiana. He teaches himself Spanish. And so by the time he was a young teen, he was bilingual, which, you look back at Indiana at that era, it's very atypical. It's very unusual.
Virtually unheard of for, especially that era, especially.
Yeah,
even now, it's unusual for a kid to self-teach themselves on a language.
Yeah, he just, and it turned out to be a very good thing for Lew to be able to speak Spanish because he did fight in the Mexican War as an 18, 19-year-old. And then later in life, he became a governor of the New Mexico Territory and was one of the very early, if not the first federal appointee to that territory that could speak the language. And it turned out to be a very useful thing. So lots of things that happened in Lew's life that he dealt with, that he taught himself, turned out to have lasting impact and were very beneficial to him. So basically, if he was interested in it, he would find a way to do it. If he wasn't, then the world didn't need it. I mean, he was pretty black and white about stuff like that. He struggled with math. Not so much with math, but with algebra, things like that. He just was a very hands-on, kinetic kind of learner and taught himself. And that's how he got through life. And it turned out he was very lucky. He had a stepmother who embraced that and helped encourage him to learn in his own way because he obviously was not able to learn in the classroom. So that turned out to be a very helpful thing to have a stepmother that understood him.
So, also, while the film we were watching, we also noticed that he encountered Billy the Kid. if you want to go into a little bit of detail about that too, which I thought was very fascinating.
Well, he did. We know of one secret meeting that he had with Billy the Kid, but there are some letters of correspondence back and forth, and those survived. They're primarily down at the Indiana Historical Society down on Ohio Street. When Lou was appointed as territorial governor by the Hayes administration, New Mexico was a very dangerous place. The Lincoln County Wars were going on. There was some concern that even another civil war might break out west because it was incredibly violent. Susan, Lou's wife, wrote several times that she was more worried about his life in New Mexico than any time during the Civil War. It was just incredibly violent. So Lou was sent to New Mexico for several reasons, but one of the reasons was because he was a very trusted person. And the Hayes administration felt that if anybody could get both sides of the story and begin to find a way to reconcile this violence, it might be Wallace. And he actually did pretty good at toning things down and getting the sides to kind of step back and calm the action. And Billy the Kid was one of the hired gunslingers for one of the sides. And so Lou entered some private negotiations with Billy the Kid to get testimony that was needed. And it was a complicated situation, and Billy the Kid ultimately, on the second go-around, did not perform as he promised, and it led to Lou Wallace signing Billy the Kid's death warrant.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it strikes me that looking at his history, like he was remarkably self-driven and remarkably lucky in his own way. Where it seems like a right place at the right time.
Some of that was just by the nature accidental, but some of it Lou positioned himself to be where something was going to happen, and he did. He was a very outside-the-box thinker. Mm-hmm. When he was coming back from the Mexican War in 1846, 47, whenever it was, and the men were coming back from Mexico, a lot of them went through New Orleans. That's how the U.S. government got people shipped back. And most of the guys that were in New Orleans were doing New Orleans things.
Yeah.
Bourbon Street and other places. Lou, by the accounts that he left, instead went to public lectures. He's a 19-year-old guy, and he is going to public lectures, and he said, and they tended to be very famous preachers sermonizing, and he said, I didn't care what they were saying, but I wanted to watch how they used their words and how they moved the audience. What 19-year-old boy is figuring that out?
Very atypical.
Very unusual thought process, but again, it turned out to be very helpful to him in his later life. So he was always basically strategizing not only in military affairs but also in his personal life.
So, as you know, we're doing the 1959 version of Ben-Hur, the movie.
Yeah.
But something I knew about the 1925 version, but there was actually a 1907 version that I didn't know about.
Yes.
So if you want to go in and talk about the 1907 version and all that happened there, the 1925, then finally what Hollywood called the 1959 version.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually been 7 filmed versions over the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The 07 one is, if you have about 12 minutes to spare out of your life, you can Google Ben-Hur 1907 and watch it. It is an extravaganza, but it turned out to be a very interesting film and very important in the history of film because the studio that filmed the 1907 version did not have permission. Mm-hmm. The Wallace family had copyrighted and trademarked Ben-Hur. So Lou and Susan's son, Henry, their only child, sued, saying, I didn't say you could do this. And he talked to the Broadway producers because Ben-Hur was running on Broadway at that point as a stage show. He talked to the book publishers. Nobody had given permission. Now, in 1907, movie studios did not ask for permission. They just filmed stuff. It was a new industry. They just did it.
Roll on the dice. Hopefully they didn't step on any toes.
Yeah, they didn't care. I mean, there was no regulations.
Yeah.
But Henry said, no, it's our product, and you didn't get permission. And he had protected it through different legal maneuvers. So they duked it back and forth because the movie studio sued Henry and said, we have just made this extravagant film and it's going to drive people to the theater and it's going to drive book sales. So you owe us money for marketing. And they continued to fight it. It finally landed in the United States Supreme Court in 1911, and the court agreed with Henry. And it's one of the early times that the federal government has protected intellectual property rights, and it's still precedent-setting. So it's called the Ben-Hur decision of 1911. And Henry not only won the case, but he won a lot of money. So for the family, it was a very successful venture. But it did sour Henry on the movies. And he turned down all sorts of movie offers until he saw Birth of a Nation. And then he began to think, well, the movies are getting more sophisticated, and maybe we can do something with this film. And Henry was also smart enough to know that the...
We just go with it.
he knew copyright was going to be expiring, and he was going to lose rights to the book. So that's one of the reasons he began negotiations in the late teens and early 20s.
Right, and so then he actually sold the rights for the 1925 version. You said around 1922,
About
1923,
1921, 22, he actually settled things. And the 25 film, in terms of Los Angeles and Hollywood history, is the most important film, far and away. The 59 is a tremendous, record-breaking film, and certainly turned the industry around for MGM. It saved the studio. But the 25 film changed the industry. It changed. Up until that movie was released, there were very viable studios in New York, Florida, and Chicago. 25 comes out, and within a few years, those studios are gone. They realized we cannot compete with what they can do in Los Angeles. It didn't make money for the studio that became MGM because it was horrendously expensive. It was the most expensive silent movie ever filmed, and it shows. And it had the difficulty of coming out in 25. Well, 2 years later, it's talkies. So within a couple years, it was dated. It was re-released in 31, and that's when MGM started making their money back, and they made a profit on it. But it was an extravaganza, and the world had never seen a film of that scale when it came out. And it's a fun movie to Google, to read about, because you can read for pages and pages of things that went wrong. From the time Henry inked the deal and left, the production just was cursed.
That was a true thing we've definitely noticed in our initial research too, where we felt like we could spend days or hours doing research on this, and even then we feel like we're just barely scratching the surface even in this podcast right here.
It started production in Italy. It was the last time a woman was in charge of a major Hollywood production until recently.
Decades.
Within the last 15 years, women were not part of the Hollywood power structure. In 1925, June Mathis, who had discovered Rudolph Valentino, she was put in charge of it. And for different reasons, it all fell apart. And she was taken out off the production along with everybody else, except for one guy. And she continued to have a career for another few years, but that was the last time, other than maybe Mary Pickford is arguably a powerful woman because United Artists. But after that, women were not part of the Hollywood decision-making team. So Ben-Hur played a role in that. The ethical treatment of animals. Ben-Hur 25. There were some bad things going on with horses.
There's a common recurring topic in our podcast.
And also in the 59 version.
And the 59 was better because the ethical treatment of animals had become part of the Hollywood structure by 59, but it was not in 25. There were issues with the Hays Code had not yet come around, the self-censorship.
Yeah.
And Ben-Hur tended to get a pass because it was such a work of art, and it had such a strong religious theme that people kind of looked the other way. But
at the time, too. Many religious films kind of got away from censorships in that way.
Yeah. But it was one of the films where people in Hollywood started saying, we've got to be careful because we have pushed the envelope as far as we can. And if we don't censor ourselves, other people will. So the Hays Code came along a few years later.
Yeah, so even outside of the film, we're specifically focusing on the 59 version. It's very easy to see that all 7 versions now are really a good a touchstone for each period of film history. Actually.
They are. I mean,
major points, anyways.
Yeah, the 2016 film, which is a great bit of acting, if you're listening, Jack Houston. But they played with the storyline, and it's hard to compete with 59. It just
So how could you possibly follow up? Answer: you really can't.
You can't, so I don't know what their thought processes were. There was a 2010 version that ended up becoming kind of a movie of the week on television. It was filmed in Europe and Canada, and you can. Again, I don't remember the actors. There's some that were some significant actors, and not to pick on them, but you can kind of tell the day they ran out of money. Like just sort of all of a sudden it changes.
Production is always difficult. For these kind of things, so I don't begrudge them for it.
No, and so that's where you've got 25, which is stunning in its own way, dated but stunning, and 59, which what can you do? Hollywood
Yeah.
will never be able to produce films like that again without CGI.
Yeah, for better or worse, in many respects, it's just impossible to reproduce a film like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you said that Henry was that
Henry was the son.
sold the rights to the book or whatever in 1922.
Two.
Okay, we'll say 22. Did he put anything in there for the family to receive royalties for anything else from further production?
That was the last time the family saw any benefit from Ben-Hur. Was 22 when the rights were sold away, because part of that was there had been a Broadway stage production mounted in 1899. 21 years later, it's still running, still making money, and one of the requirements was that stage play go away. The MGM studio did not want anything to compete with the movie, so the plays had to be taken apart. The book went into the public domain. It was over 40-something years
Just about
old.
to ask that, yeah.
So the sale of the rights to produce Ben-Hur was the last time the family saw any benefit from Ben-Hur.
And also in the movie that we saw, you said that the Ben-Hur book has never been out of print.
Never.
That is amazing right there on its own, too.
Yeah. Well,
So
and if
being
you
print.
look at the longevity, Uncle Tom's Cabin had been the first bestseller, really. And it came out in the 1850s. 30 years later, it's still a bestseller until Ben-Hur hits its stride. And within about 6 or 7 years, Ben-Hur has eclipsed Uncle Tom's Cabin. Ben-Hur became the best-selling book of the 19th century. The only thing that outsold it was the Bible. It continued to be the best-selling novel until Gone with the Wind in 1936, I believe. And so if you look at, American culture, slave stories are what people are buying. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Ben-Hur has a significant theme of slavery in the Middle East in the time of Jesus, and then Gone with the Wind. And so it's a powerful story, powerful narrative.
Truly. Agreed.
Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about the museum and study here if they want to come see where you're located at.
Okay.
If you have a website, email address or anything.
We
that way they
have
can-
a web, just Google benhur.com and we should come up, or you can do General Lew Wallace Study Museum is our formal name. And when Wallace became enormously wealthy thanks to Ben-Hur, he continued to live on property that he had been received through his wife's family in the 1860s. But he built a brand new building, a private study, and that's what we have available for the public to tour. It was kept after Lou died in 1905 and Susan in 1907. Their son Henry, who inherited the estate, kept it kind of as a shrine to his father. And once he died, his son, Lou's grandson, Lou Jr., also kept it kind of as a shrine to the family. During the 30s, it fell onto hard times, and a group of women in Crawfordsville, it's always the women, a group of women in Crawfordsville decided that it needed to be saved, and so they raised money and bought it. And after all of the paperwork was settled, they gifted it to the city of Crawfordsville. So we are technically owned by the city of Crawfordsville and been run as a museum since the early 1940s. 99% of what you see is original to Lou. We tend to keep out stuff regarding his Civil War career, and then we always have out some stuff for Ben-Hur as well.
Very nice.
So
So
here's a question I had real quick.
Okay.
I know you guys, you try to get stuff that was connected to Lou as you can. Have you ever tried to get like the copies of the film of maybe some like the original films as far as like the film reels go? Or
No, we haven't tried to do any of that, partly because for particularly really old film like the 25, you have to be very careful about what it's made out of so it doesn't
how
catch
it's
fire
stored,
or blow up. Yeah. And it's out there and it's available. So as long as the information is accessible, we're happy with that. We have had some movie props and some things come to us. We don't have it out right now, but for instance, the 2016 movie during the chariot race, Jack Houston is Ben-Hur, and we were able to purchase the outfit that he wore during the chariot race, which is really cool. So we've got his tunic and his slacks and stuff. So we have stuff from the 25 movie, we have stuff from the stage play, 25 movie, and then some stuff from the 59 movie. And if stuff comes out that's reasonable, we're always keeping an eye open. We don't really have acquisition funds, but things have come this way through the generosity of others, and we're happy to share those.
Yeah,
So do you just rotate the stuff you have for the museum?
We do change some of the exhibits. Now the main space is kept largely it was during Lou's time. We do have a small space at the back where we do rotate things, and we have right now we have Ben-Hur stuff out.
Right.
In a couple of years, we may mount another exhibit here in the Carriage House, which is another property that Lou owned. It's kind of our interpretive center. And we're thinking in a couple of years about doing another exhibit on Ben-Hur, in which case we'll probably put Civil War stuff out in that rotating exhibit.
Very nice. You ever thought about doing a whole another building another building on the property, or?
Not so much on these grounds, partly because this is one of the 40 National Historic Landmarks in the state of Indiana. And which is the highest designation the federal government can give to a historic site. So we're kind of restricted on what we do on the property itself.
Understandable. Yeah.
We want it to look like it did when Lou was here, so when you're walking it or in the study, you can feel like Lou has just stepped around the corner. And so that's our goal. There are other places in Crawfordsville some days we may do something.
I think that would be. I think I've noticed about any prospective visitors from this podcast. Hopefully, like this is definitely first and foremost a Lew Wallace museum, and Ben-Hur casts a long shadow over it. To be polite.
Well, and we're fortunate in Crawfordsville. We've got 4 really outstanding museums, and for a small town, we've got the oldest rotating jail in the nation is just up the block. Henry Lane, who was Lou's brother-in-law, Mr. Lane, and Mrs. Lane and Mrs. Wallace were sisters. He was a U.S. Senator from Indiana. During the Civil War, he put Abraham Lincoln's name into nomination. So his home is open to the public. And then we have the oldest Carnegie Museum in the state of Indiana is open as a kind of a museum of Montgomery County history. So all within walking distance. It's a really nice place for people that want to, easy drive from Indianapolis and easy drive from Bloomington or Terre Haute, or not too bad from Chicago. If people would like to spend an easy day touring historic sites and great art galleries and great shopping. Nice little town.
And the breakfast company's pretty good too. We just
breakfast very good.
Well, Kyle, do you have any more questions or statements or anything you'd like to ask?
Only general thing that it's like we're incredibly thankful for your time and giving us this information. Has been absolutely increased the value of this podcast, especially.
It's not often we get the opportunity to actually visit a site that has historical value to the film we're covering, or usually it's too far. It's something that we have to pre-plan ahead of time for. When we looked this up, we were like, wow, it's an hour away.
It's easy drive, yes. Get off 74 and come.
Yeah, and this is the first time we get to speak to someone so knowledgeable about the subject, because our history is usually what we can glean from internet movie database or Wikipedia in so many cases, and it's nice to have someone to speak to who clearly understands a lot more of the history of this matter.
All right, we also have my dad here. Dad, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask Larry while we're here? No? Okay.
Politely said no. We're good.
So if you're in the area, or if you're even in the Midwest and you'd like it's a very serene property. It's just peaceful. There's lots of flowers and plants. They have some trees they're going to be cutting down, but hopefully to replace them. But it's beautiful. That study, man, I'm telling you, I could live in there.
Positively gorgeous.
Never come back out.
I think what's nice about it, just really enjoying going to museums and stuff. It's quiet, and it's easy enough to book an appointment to get a tour where you can just enjoy and take in everything you're seeing without sort of any of the hustle and bustle of other tour stuff, and you can
at the same time this place is good enough it deserves to be busy in my
exactly for sure.
Well, we're very fortunate because Lou wrote a lot about himself. He was an author and very proud of himself, and other people wrote about Lou, so we can give people a very personal interpretation of how he went through life, and sometimes historic sites don't have that advantage that we do.
Do you offer tours to schools?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You do? And is there a cap, a number that you're allowed?
If we get more than about 40, we split them into groups.
Okay.
So we try to keep groups 20, 25, and sadly in the days of COVID things get a little complicated, but we can always work around stuff.
All right, well I think that's about it. That's all I have. Do you have anything?
That's all I have. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, he does have something.
There's so much more about Lou's life than just Ben-Hur.
Well,
I recommend you to come up here and take this tour. A man of many talents, been many places, and it's very, very interesting.
And he was a painter, and my dad's a painter, so once he seen that, it was game over. So
a man after his own heart.
So Larry, we thank you for your time and appreciate you, and we'll definitely put this out. We'll put stuff on the Facebook page and everything for people to want to come.
Yeah, keep us
links,
we can link
pictures.
it to ours too.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll send an email or something to you about where you can find the podcast or whatever you want to listen to it or whatever. So, well, we'll go ahead and end this recording now so we can get out of here.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
All right, so there you have it. That was Larry from the General Lew Wallace Study Museum. A lot of interesting facts. And just before we close this up, Terence, Kyle, let me get your opinions on this museum. Do you think people, if they're in the area, should go to it?
Oh, if you're in the area, we definitely go.
If you're in the area, you have no excuse. You have to
Yeah.
that's it.
Especially if you've seen the movie.
I just want to say something about Lew Wallace. This guy did so much with his life. What we talked about with the interview didn't even cover half of it. I mean, he had entanglement with Billy the Kid. He had interactions with Billy the Kid. He was an attorney. President Abraham Lincoln actually asked for him personally to lead one of his things. I forgot where Larry said. He was an attorney, an inventor,
ambassador of Turkey, I believe. Something like that.
Yeah, he became an ambassador. Yeah.
He was a fisherman. He taught himself how to play violin. He taught himself how to paint. He sculpted. All this stuff, it was just ridiculous. So I not only suggest that you go visit this place, but if you, we also went to his gravesite, which was monumental in itself. But look into it, not just have him known as the author of Ben-Hur. General Lew Wallace had a lifetime that me, Terence, and Kyle combined would. Any one thing he did would have been amazing.
Yeah. He has a list of accomplishments that rivals whole cultures in so many ways.
Right.
In a way, we're just like, we can't speak necessarily to all the opinions of the area that he had or whatever like that. If he doesn't have something like, you'd be like, oh man, that was a really bad belief even for the time. Maybe he has one of those, but regardless, he accomplished a lot over the course of his life, which is just.
And the guy had a moat around his man cave. I mean,
he had a moat around his man cave. Yeah, exactly.
That sold it for me right there.
Yeah, he's a man's man.
Well, with that being said, this episode's gone on long enough. I think it's coming to close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
Wow, that was terrible.
Got that perfectly right.